The stars of the Varelian system were dying. Their twin suns flickered weakly, sending cold waves of light through space. On the capital world of Arixa, panic filled the sky. Massive orbital stations drifted powerless, their engines silent. Below, cities once shining with blue light now glowed dim red as energy reserves ran dry. The great empire that had ruled this sector for 1,000 years was collapsing. Inside the Galactic command hall, the air was tense. Dozens of alien officers, with silver-scaled skin and long frilled heads, gathered around a holographic table. At the center, Grand Chancellor Varen looked up at the trembling signal feed. "Our distress call has reached every corner of the galaxy," he said slowly. Yet no one has answered. His voice cracked with disbelief. The council members murmured, whispering words of fear and betrayal. They had sent their SOS weeks ago. It was a desperate message begging for aid from any surviving allies. Their world's suns were destabilizing after a chain of failed energy experiments, and without power, their planetary cores would soon freeze. But the galaxy had grown silent. No fleets came, no messages returned. It was as if the universe had abandoned them. Then, late one cycle, the signal room's lights began to flicker. An operator shouted, "Incoming transmission." Everyone turned toward the great screen as strange symbols appeared. It wasn't a standard galactic code. The characters were rough, angular, and ancient. The translator AI struggled for several moments before spitting out the result. A single word flashed in red. Human. The room went silent. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Admiral Kress stood, his voice trembling. "That cannot be. Humanity was exiled millennia ago. They were declared Deathworlders, too dangerous to exist among us." The others nodded in fear. The name alone carried weight. Stories said humans came from a world so hostile that even their plants could kill. They had fought wars that scorched planets. And when the Galactic Council tried to control them, the humans had vanished into the dark, taking their fleets and weapons with them. Now somehow they had heard the signal. The transmission crackled again. A deep, calm voice echoed through the chamber. "This is Commander of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. Your distress signal was received. Assistance has been authorized." The message ended there. No coordinates, no demands, no emotion, only silence followed. Chancellor Varen's voice broke the tension. "Prepare a welcome protocol," he said quietly. "Even if they are Deathworlders, we cannot reject help." Admiral Kress hesitated. "What if they come not as saviors, but as conquerors?" The Chancellor looked toward the dying suns and whispered, "Then at least we will not die alone." Hours later, the outer system sensors began to scream. Dozens of massive gravitational distortions appeared at the edge of the star system. Ships, thousands of them, emerged from folds in space. They were unlike any ships the aliens had ever seen. Dark, angular hulls with no visible markings, only faint crimson lights pulsing along their spines. Each vessel radiated power like a living creature. The lead ship dwarfed every battleship in the Varelian Navy. Its silhouette blocked the stars themselves. Admiral Kress gripped the console. "Identify that class," he ordered. The AI scanned and reported in a flat voice. "Unknown configuration, but materials match ancient Terran alloys." The alien bridge crew looked at each other, their hearts pounding. It was true the humans had come and they had brought a fleet of nightmares. The lead ship sent another message, simple, brief, and terrifying. "Stand by for assessment. Do not interfere." The communication ended again, leaving a cold silence behind. Outside, the alien satellites recorded the fleet spreading into formation, hundreds of vessels aligning perfectly around the system's dying suns. A strange energy field began to hum between them, forming glowing geometric patterns across space. No one on Arixa understood what they were seeing. Some whispered prayers, others prepared evacuation plans. The Chancellor watched from the tower's window as the night sky filled with red lines of light. His hands trembled. "They are doing something to the suns," he said. The Admiral replied quietly, "Or to us." For the first time in centuries, The mighty Varelian Empire felt truly powerless. Their fate now rested in the hands of those they once called monsters. And as the energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits, a final message appeared on every screen across the planet. The same calm human voice spoke again. Your signal was heard. Now stand back. The lights across the planet dimmed completely. The people looked up at the sky as the human fleet ignited in a blinding crimson glow. And in that moment, every living soul on Arixa realized something. They had called for help and help had come. But no one could tell if it would save them or end them. The human fleet drifted above the dying suns like a wall of shadows. Its formation was flawless, its silence louder than thunder. Each ship moved as if controlled by one mind, precise and calm. The Varelian observation stations tried to scan the ships, but their sensors failed. All readings came back scrambled, as if the humans had erased their own presence from reality. No one could measure their energy output. No one could read their heat signatures. It was as if the entire armada existed half in another dimension. From the balcony of the command hall, Chancellor Varen watched in awe and terror. The crimson glow from the fleet painted the sky, reflecting off the glass towers of Arixa. He turned to Admiral Kress and whispered, "What kind of power is this?" Kress answered softly. "The kind that was forbidden." He could still remember the stories from his ancestors, the tales of how the Galactic Council had banished the humans for their brutality. They were called Deathworlders because their world had made them stronger, faster and impossible to destroy. When war came, they fought not to survive, but to win. Now those same Deathworlders had returned, and they had come to help. A sudden transmission cut through the silence. It came directly from the lead ship, its code ancient yet unmistakable. The message was clear. "This is Commander Hale of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We have received your signal. Emergency assessment complete. Your sons can be stabilized." The alien technicians gasped. They had tried for years to save their twin sons, failing every time. Now humans claimed they could fix them in a single sentence. Admiral Kress opened a direct link. "This is Admiral Kress of the Varelian Defense Authority," he said nervously. "We welcome your aid, but we ask your intentions." The human's voice returned calm and steady. "Our intention is survival, yours and ours, and do not interfere." Then the connection ended again. Moments later, the human fleet moved. Thousands of ships spread out across the system in a perfect pattern. Their formation looked like a web made of light and motion. Massive carriers unfolded mechanical wings, releasing swarms of smaller crafts that shimmered like fireflies. The aliens watched their displays in shock. Each tiny craft emitted waves of energy that rippled through space. The dying suns responded instantly, their light flickering brighter. It was as if the humans were rewriting the laws of physics. In orbit around the outer moon, alien scientists stared in disbelief. "How can they control a star?" one whispered. "Not even the Council has this level of mastery." But the lead scientist, old and trembling, spoke quietly. "They were exiled because they surpassed the Council. Now we see why." Meanwhile, in the Terran flagship Nemesis, Commander Hale stood on the bridge. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of centuries. Around her, holographic screens displayed streams of data and gravity fluctuations. Her crew was silent, disciplined, every motion exact. They had done this before. Worlds on the edge of death, systems collapsing, empires begging for salvation. Humanity had become the galaxy's uninvited guardians. And when they came, they never left the same way. Hale looked at her navigation officer. "Deploy the solar stabilizers," she ordered. The officer nodded, activating rows of energy pylons that detached from the ship's hull. They formed glowing rings around the smaller sun. The energy output spiked so high that the alien satellites nearly melted trying to measure it. The dying sun pulsed once, then twice, then roared back to life with golden fire. Every alien across Arixa gasped as daylight returned. For a moment, hope filled the air. The citizens ran into the streets, cheering and crying. They thought the humans had come to save them. But on the flagship, Hale's voice turned cold. "Stabilization achieved," she said. "Now we proceed to Phase 2. On Arixa." Admiral Kress frowned. "Phase 2, he repeated quietly. "What does that mean?" The human signal returned briefly. "Your system is compromised," the voice said. "Anomaly detected near your core. We are removing the threat without warning. Half the human fleet redirected toward the planet. Their engines glowed with pale light as they descended silently through the atmosphere. Alien defense systems locked on them automatically, then shut down without command every weapon, every shield. Every satellite simply stopped responding. The alien operators panicked. "We're losing all control," one shouted. Admiral Kress slammed his fist on the console. "Stand down," he ordered. "Do not provoke them." From the sky, massive human warships passed over the cities. Their hulls were black mirrors reflecting the crimson sky. No sound, no sonic boom, only pressure in the air like a storm waiting to break. Below, millions of aliens looked up. Some knelt in prayer, others ran in fear. And somewhere deep inside the capital, a child pointed at the glowing fleet and whispered, "Are they angels?" Her mother pulled her close and replied in a trembling voice, "No, my child, they are humans above them." Commander Hale watched the readings on her console. "Core energy anomaly confirmed," she said quietly. "Planetary instability caused by artificial interference. Proceed with purge protocol." The word purge echoed through the bridge like thunder. And outside, the sky began to tremble. The aliens below had called for help. The humans had answered. But what was happening now didn't feel like a rescue. It felt like judgment. The light from the human ships grew brighter. Wind screamed across the surface of Eryxa as gravity itself began to shift. Then, just before the storm could break, the fleet suddenly stopped moving. Every engine dimmed, every weapon powered down. A voice echoed once more across the planet. Calm and unshaken. "Do not fear," it said. "Your salvation is not yet finished." The signal faded, leaving only silence, and in that silence, the aliens realized something chilling. The humans had not come for glory, for power, or for conquest. They had come because someone had asked for help, and help from Deathworlders always came at a price. The skies of Eryxa glowed like liquid fire. The human fleet hovered motionless above the capital world, their dark hulls reflecting the light of the reborn suns. For the first time in months, warmth returned to the planet, melting the frost that had claimed the towers. But instead of joy, fear filled the hearts of the people. The humans had restored their sons, but no one understood how. No one knew what Phase 2 meant, and no one dared to ask in the council chamber. Chancellor Varen stood before a wall-sized display showing the massive Terran flagship. "Nemesis," he spoke softly. "They saved our system, and yet, I feel as if we have awakened something older than our empire." Admiral Kress nodded, his scales dull with exhaustion. "Their technology is beyond comprehension," he said. "I have studied military history all my life, but this is creation and destruction combined." Outside, the alien broadcast channels buzzed with speculation. Some believed the humans were gods returning to punish the unworthy. Others whispered that they were conquerors who would soon take the planet. But a small number, mostly scientists and old scholars, remembered the forbidden archives. They spoke of the time when humanity was part of the Galactic Council, back when their worlds burned, their skies poisoned, and yet they thrived. They had been labeled Deathworlders because everything on their planet tried to kill them. And still, they survived. The Council had feared them, feared their adaptability, their willpower, their refusal to surrender, so they were exiled. Their name erased from the archives, but legends said they went into the void, building fleets no one dared to follow. Now it seemed those legends had returned. A signal cut through the static. It was from Nemesis, addressed directly to the Varelian Council. "This is Commander Hale," the calm human voice said. "Your world is unstable. We have detected ancient weapon cores buried beneath your capital. They were placed there long before your current civilization rose. Do not attempt to interfere while we remove them." Admiral Kress's eyes widened. "Ancient weapon cores," he whispered. Varen turned pale. "Those are myths," he said. "Old stories from before our records began. But the humans were already acting far above the planet." The Terran fleet opened new formations. From their bellies, black drones like metallic birds swarmed down toward the surface. Each one emitted a low hum that rattled the windows of every city. The people stared in horror as the ground began to quake. Old temples cracked open. Streets split apart, and deep beneath Eryxa, a forgotten layer of machinery stirred. The humans were right. Something ancient was buried there, and it was waking in a hidden chamber miles below the surface. Bright light poured from broken stone. The air shimmered as massive metal structures emerged. They looked like sleeping titans, half-buried machines that pulsed with dying energy. When the humans' drones approached, the machines reacted violently. Blue lightning burst from the ground, striking at the drones, but the humans had expected this. Their ships responded instantly, unleashing precise pulses of red energy that neutralized the attack in seconds. Admiral Kress gripped the edge of the console. "Those weapons, they are planetary defense engines," he said in disbelief. "They were sealed long before our time." Varen's voice trembled. "Then who built them?" No one answered. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Commander Hale watched the data unfold. Her second officer turned to her. "Confirmed," he said. "Precursor weapon cores. Same energy readings as the ancient war." Hale's eyes narrowed. "So the Council buried its sins beneath another species' home," she said quietly. "Typical." She activated the fleet-wide comm system. "Operation Purge continuing," she ordered. "Do not engage life signatures, only core activity." Outside, red energy beams pierced the clouds, drilling deep into the planet's crust. The alien cities trembled, but the beams avoided inhabited zones with perfect precision. Moments later, massive explosions rippled through the planet's mantle. Columns of blue fire erupted skyward, then collapsed into silence. And just like that, the ancient cores were gone, vaporized in controlled detonations. Hours passed before the storm of light faded. The fleet returned to orbit. Silent once again, a single message followed. Threat neutralized, planet stable. In the council chamber, the aliens were speechless. Chancellor Varen finally whispered, "They didn't destroy us. They saved us," Admiral Kress exhaled slowly. "Or perhaps they simply removed a danger that threatened their plans." Varen looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" Kress turned toward the hologram of the Terran flagship. "Do you really think they came all this way for mercy?" he asked. "They don't do charity. They came because our danger could have spread to them." Far above, on the human ship, Hale listened to the planet's quiet heartbeat through her console. Her voice was calm, but her thoughts were heavy. She knew the aliens feared them. She knew the word Deathworlders still echoed like a curse. But she also knew the truth. Humanity didn't come for revenge or conquest. They came because no one else would. Because even if the galaxy feared them, humanity still remembered what it was like to scream for help and hear nothing in return. On the planet below, the first sunrise after the purge painted the sky gold. Children ran through the streets shouting that the light had returned. The old priest called it a miracle, but the soldiers and leaders looked to the heavens with unease. They knew what had really happened. They had been saved by monsters, and monsters never come without a reason. The dawn over Arixa was beautiful, but it felt wrong. The golden light of the reborn suns poured across the towers, bathing the city in warmth. But under that light, fear still lingered. Every citizen looked up, expecting to see destruction raining from the heavens. Instead, they saw the Terran fleet, silent, motionless, eternal. The ships floated like dark gods above their world, unmoving and unblinking. The people could not decide whether to bow in gratitude or hide in terror. Inside the command hall, Chancellor Varen stared at the holographic sky feed. Thousands of red icons marked the human ships surrounding their planet. They had saved Arixa, destroyed the ancient cores, and stabilized the suns, but they hadn't left. Days had passed, and the humans remained, scanning, studying, silent. Admiral Kress stood beside him, his expression hard. "They are waiting for something," he said quietly. "Either they are protecting us or preparing for something much worse." A sudden message flashed across the main display. Transmission source Nemesis. The alien officers froze as the calm, cold human voice echoed again. "This is Commander Hale. The stabilization phase is complete. Your world is safe, but not clean. There are traces of corruption in your governance networks. Origin, Galactic Council Code." The room went dead silent. Council Code meant forbidden technology, something the Varelians were not supposed to possess. Kress frowned deeply. "We never used council systems," he said. Varen hesitated, his voice uncertain. "Unless they were hidden before our empire began," Commander Hale's voice continued. "We have detected signals suggesting manipulation. Your system's fall was no accident. You were meant to die." The words hit the council like thunder. One of the officers shouted, "That cannot be true." But deep down they all knew it made sense. Their son's collapse had happened too precisely. Too suddenly, someone had wanted their civilization erased. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Commander Hale stood with arms folded. Her crew worked quietly, their eyes moving across data screens filled with alien symbols. "The Council never learns," she muttered. "They bury their crimes under innocent worlds." Her second officer nodded. "They always underestimate how far the Deathworlders can see." Outside, smaller Terran ships descended again. This time they were not weapons or drones, but ships bearing the insignia of the Terran Aid Corps. They carried machinery the aliens could not name, massive pylons planted into the soil around key cities, glowing faint blue. Humans called them atmos stabilizers, designed to cleanse radiation and toxins. The aliens watched as the air grew clearer, the water brighter. Children played beneath the rising sun for the first time without fear of breathing poison. For a brief moment, there was peace. But peace was not what the leaders felt, Chancellor Varen whispered. "They rebuild our world faster than we ever could," Kress replied. "And they do it without asking. They act like this planet already belongs to them." In orbit, the human fleet worked in silence. They dismantled old Varelian defense platforms and replaced them with their own beacons. When asked why, the human response was simple. "Your defenses are obsolete. We will maintain the perimeter." To the aliens, it sounded like protection, but to the military minds, it felt like occupation. Whispers began spreading through the cities. Are the humans saving them or taking them? Were they saviors or conquerors dressed in mercy? The people wanted to believe the former, but history told them the latter was always true. Late one evening, as the skies glowed red from the twin suns, Admiral Kress received a private message. It came from a human relay satellite orbiting just above their defense grid. The message contained no sound, only text. A single line that froze his heart. "Do not trust the Council." He stared at it for a long time before closing the channel. The humans knew more than they revealed, and whatever they were preparing for, it was not over. Meanwhile, in the human flagship, Commander Hale stood in her private chamber. A hologram of an older man flickered before her. His voice deep and calm. "Commander Hale, report. The Varelian system is secure," she replied. "But we found traces of the Council's manipulation again." The man's eyes narrowed. "Do what must be done," he said. "Protect them, but never let them control the narrative." The hologram faded, leaving Hale alone with her thoughts. She turned to the window, watching the alien planet spin below. "They fear us," she whispered to herself. "Good. Fear will keep them alive on the surface." Chancellor Varen looked out over the reborn capital. The stars shone brighter than ever. The air was fresh, and the lights of the cities glimmered once more. Yet in his heart he knew peace was fragile. The humans had given them life, but they had also taken something unseen. Freedom, control, the sense that they ruled their own destiny. Now, every heartbeat of Arixa echoed with Terran machinery. Every communication passed through Terran relays, and every night, the red eyes of orbiting ships stared down from above like silent guardians, or jailers. Still, the people praised the humans. They built statues, they sang songs. They spoke of the Deathworlders as divine saviors, but the leaders knew better. They remembered how easily their defenses had been shut down, how every system had bowed before Terran code, and how every victory came wrapped in quiet submission. When the Council finally sent a message weeks later, it came not to the Varelians but to the humans. The aliens never heard what was said, but after that day, the Terran fleet changed formation. The ships turned outward, weapons armed. Something was coming, something that made even the Deathworlders uneasy. As night fell over Arixa, Admiral Kress looked up at the sky one last time. The Terran fleet shimmered like a scar across the heavens, and he whispered, "They saved us, but from what, and for what?" The sky above Arixa burned with the colors of dawn. But peace did not last long. Just when the people began to rebuild their hope, alarms screamed across the cities. Red lights flashed in every tower. Sirens echoed through the streets. Admiral Kress rushed into the command center, his voice sharp. "Report. What's happening?" A young officer turned from the console, his face pale. "Unknown fleet entering system perimeter, not human." "Not ours." Varen's breath caught in his throat. "Who would dare to attack us now?" The officer hesitated before answering. "Pirates. Or worse, Council loyalists." The holographic map filled with dozens of red blips. A swarm of small, fast ships pouring into the system from the far side of the suns. Their signatures burned bright with weapon power. The aliens panicked. Our defenses are useless. We're still offline, one shouted. But then a voice cut through the chaos, calm and steady. This is Commander Hale. All Varelian citizens remain in place. Stand down. We are engaging. Outside, the void of space erupted in crimson light. The human fleet moved like a storm given form. Terran warships turned as one, their black hulls glinting with red energy. No shouts, no warnings, no hesitation. The humans simply acted. Their ships launched volleys of light so bright they split the darkness. In seconds, the first enemy vessels vanished in silence. There were no explosions, only sudden erasure. The fleet's precision was terrifying. Every shot found its mark, every movement had purpose. They fought not with anger, but with certainty. From the surface, the aliens watched through trembling hands. To them it was not a battle, it was a cleansing. The pirates, who had hoped to prey on a wounded world, never stood a chance. Their transmissions begged for mercy. Their screams echoed through open frequencies. But the Deathworlders gave none within minutes. The entire enemy armada was gone, erased from the stars. Chancellor Varen stood frozen, he whispered. They wiped them out. Admiral Kress nodded slowly, his eyes locked on the display. Yes, and they didn't even call it war. He turned to the Chancellor and added quietly, This is what they call mercy. Moments later, the voice of Commander Hale returned. Threat neutralized. Surface security stable. We will not allow further interference. Then the channel closed. No explanation, no demand for thanks, just silence. In the streets, the people wept. Some fell to their knees, crying out to the skies. Humans saved us again, they said. They destroyed our enemies, but others whispered in fear. They destroy too easily. They decide who lives and who dies. That night, Arixa's capital held a celebration. Lanterns floated through the air. Songs echoed in every district. The people cheered the Deathworlders as heroes. They built banners bearing the symbol of Earth. To them, it was gratitude. But to the human eyes watching from orbit, it was something else. A reminder, a warning on the Nemesis. Commander Hale stood on the viewing deck. Her second officer approached cautiously. Another world saved, he said quietly. She nodded, her expression unreadable. They don't understand what mercy costs, she replied. They think salvation is free, he frowned. Should we tell them? Hale shook her head. No, she said. Let them believe, and the truth is not for them. Below, in the heart of the alien capital, Admiral Kress met secretly with Varen. The Chancellor's face was pale under the soft blue light. He whispered, Do you see what they are? They act like gods, yet they call themselves protectors. Kress leaned forward, his voice low. Maybe gods are what we need, Varen frowned. Until they decide we are not worth saving. The next morning, a massive Terran shuttle descended from orbit. It landed near the council spire, shaking the ground with its weight. From its ramp stepped several humans, tall and silent in dark armor that shimmered with faint light. At their front walked Commander Hale herself. The air grew still as she approached the alien leaders. Her eyes were cold, but her tone was measured. We detected council interference behind the pirate attack, she said. They tried to test your defenses again. You were bait. Varen swallowed hard. Why? He asked. Hale's answer was simple. To see if we would come. Her words chilled everyone in the room. She continued. The council fears us. They use you as a trap to study us. To measure our limits, she paused, then added softly. They will try again. Admiral Kress stepped forward. Then we will fight beside you, he said firmly. But Hale shook her head. No, she replied, you will survive. That is your role. Our fight is not yours, she turned to leave. But Varen called out, Commander, he said. If you had not come, we would be dead. Why did you save us for the first time? Her expression softened. Her eyes turned toward the window, where the suns burned bright again. When our world was dying, she said quietly. No one came for us, her voice dropped to a whisper. So now we come for others. Then she walked away, leaving silence behind her. Outside, the humans boarded their shuttle and rose back into the heavens. The crowd below watched them go, unsure whether to cheer or to pray. The Deathworlders had saved them again, but their presence left a weight no one could name. They had witnessed humanity's mercy, and they had learned that even mercy from Deathworlders carried the shadow of power. That night, when the stars returned to the sky, the people of Arixa told their children stories of the humans. They said the Deathworlders were born from fire, that they brought both life and destruction, and that when the galaxy turned its back, it was humanity that answered the call. The sons of Arixa rose again, bright and strong, painting gold fire across the alien horizon, but the people no longer looked at their sky with wonder. They looked with fear, for the human fleet still hovered there, silent, unmoving like a shadow that would never leave. They had saved the world, yes, but every soul knew deep down that such salvation was never free. The Deathworlders always demanded something, even if they never said what it was, inside the command hall. Chancellor Varen paced the floor. His nerves were frayed from endless silence. The humans sent no messages, no explanations, no departure notice. They simply remained above, like gods waiting to judge. Admiral Kress entered quietly, his armor dull and scratched. "They've begun construction on the far moon," he said. Varen turned sharply. "What construction?" Kress's voice dropped. "They're building something massive, orbital structures, defense arrays, communication towers. It looks like a base." The Chancellor's voice cracked. "They're not leaving," Kress nodded grimly. "Maybe they never planned to." Meanwhile, in orbit, the human flagship Nemesis watched over everything. Its hull reflected the sunlight like a blade drawn across the stars. Inside, Commander Hale stood before a massive holographic map. Red dots marked hundreds of systems, many scarred and silent. A voice spoke behind her, calm and deep. Another civilization saved, another secret revealed. It was the same hologram she had spoken to before, the High Marshal of the Terran Fleet. Hale nodded slowly. "Yes, but the pattern repeats. The Council builds empires, lets them rise, then seeds destruction beneath them. When they call for help, we arrive and uncover their crimes." The Marshal's expression was grim. "They call us monsters," he said, "but it's their own shadows we're burning away." Back on Arixa, rumors spread fast. Some said the humans were building weapons. Others claimed the humans were protecting them from something worse. The streets buzzed with both hope and fear. Children painted the human ships on walls, calling them angels. Old priests called them omens. The truth was lost in the noise. Admiral Kress received another encrypted transmission late that night. The sender was human again, anonymous. The message contained only 2 lines. "Your world is safe now. But the cost is already paid." He frowned, unsure what it meant, but deep in his heart, he knew it was not a threat, it was a statement, a truth too heavy to question. 2 days later it began. Across Arixa's skies, the Terran fleet came alive. Red light shimmered across their hulls, systems humming in unison. Then massive beams of light descended from orbit, not as weapons, but as energy transfers. The humans were giving power to the planet. Energy flooded into the core, stabilizing tectonic faults, cleansing radiation and renewing soil. The world was healing faster than ever thought possible. But the aliens soon realized something terrifying. Their own reactors stopped working. Their satellites powered down. Their defense systems responded only to Terran code. The planet was alive, but no longer theirs. In the council chamber, chaos erupted. "They've taken control of our systems," an engineer shouted. "They've linked every reactor, every power grid, every satellite to their command network." Kress slammed his hand against the console. "They've turned our world into their machine." Baron's voice shook as he whispered, "Maybe this is their payment." Above the planet, Commander Hale stood silently as her officers worked. A young crew member hesitated before speaking. "Commander, the integration is complete," he said. "All systems responsive," Hale nodded. Her expression distant. "Good," she replied softly. "Let them live." Her second officer turned toward her, confused. "You don't mean to tell them what we've done?" Hale shook her head. "No," she said. "They'll find out in time. But when they do, they'll understand." That night, the people of Arixa gathered in the streets again. They cheered, believing humanity's light had restored their world completely. The skies shimmered with auroras as power returned to every city. It was beautiful. Too beautiful. And beneath that beauty, something else pulsed. The faint rhythm of Terran machinery beating like a second heart within the planet's core. Days passed and life returned. Crops grew again. Air cleared, oceans glowed with life. But scientists began to notice strange things. Every communication signal now passed through human satellites. Every atmospheric drone now carried Terran identification codes. Even their weather systems adjusted themselves according to human algorithms. Their world was no longer free, it was safe, perfectly safe, but it was owned. In the command tower, Varen stood by the window. Looking at the stars, he whispered, "We called for help." "And they came," Crest stood beside him. "They gave us everything," he said. "Except our freedom." Varen turned to him with weary eyes. Maybe freedom was the price. High above, Commander Hale watched the planet one last time. The Nemesis began to move, slowly rising toward the outer system. The fleet adjusted course, leaving behind only the new Terran base on the moon. Her voice came through one final transmission to the planet.
"Virelia is stable. Humanity withdraws. May your world live long." The signal cut off,
leaving only silence and the stars. But as the fleet vanished into the void, a faint whisper lingered through the static of the old relay beacons. A human voice, almost soft enough to be mistaken for a dream. "You asked for help," it said, "and help has a cost." Then the line went dead. The next morning, Arixa woke to perfect peace. Clean air, warm light, endless energy. But every device, every ship, every spark of life now pulsed in rhythm with Terran code. Their world lived, but under the heartbeat of humanity. Centuries passed, yet the name humanity was still whispered across the stars. Arixa had become a world of light, its skies pure, its cities endless gardens of glass and gold. The Virelians no longer feared hunger, no longer suffered storms or sickness. Their machines worked with perfect harmony. Their skies never dimmed, their oceans never dried. They lived in balance, in peace, in perfection. And yet in that perfection something was missing. Something quiet, something human. The great archives spoke of a time before the silence. A time when the sky burned red with Terran ships, when the Deathworlders came and reshaped their fate. The old ones said the humans had saved them. The young ones said the humans had taken them, but none had ever seen a Terran since. The fleet had vanished into the stars and never returned. Only their machines remained, pulsing quietly in the soil and in the air. Their presence felt but unseen in the city of Solène. A young researcher named Arel moved through the ruins beneath the old capital. He carried a dim blue light, his small hands brushing dust from ancient walls. The ruins were forbidden, sealed since the age of the Deathworlders. But Arel had always felt something calling from below. A voice faint and rhythmic like a heartbeat buried in stone. He followed the echo deeper and deeper until the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. And there, sleeping beneath layers of dust and crystal, stood a tall black console. Its surface was smooth, covered in strange letters no one alive could read. Terran script. His fingers brushed across it, and the console flared to life. A holographic figure appeared, shimmering in light. It was human. A woman in uniform, her eyes calm, her face proud. "This message is from Commander Hale. Terran Expeditionary Fleet," the recording said. "If you are hearing this, then the system endures. Your people survived." Errol froze. His heart racing, he whispered, "Humans," as if afraid to say it aloud. The hologram continued. "When we answered your call, it was not to rule you. It was to protect what was worth saving. Your world was chosen because you reminded us of who we once were. Fragile, afraid yet unyielding. We left you peace, but peace cannot last if you forget struggle. Remember that life without challenge is not life, it is sleep." Then the message shifted, her voice softer now, almost human warmth breaking through the steel. "If you ever reach for the stars again, look for us in the dark. We will hear you." The hologram flickered and faded. Leaving the chamber silent again, Arel stood trembling. Tears in his eyes, he whispered, "They never left us. They were watching." He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. Above him, faint vibrations shook the chamber. For the first time in hundreds of years, the old Terran relay towers on the surface began to hum. Every system across Arixa lit with the same golden pulse. The stars above shimmered brighter, as if something vast was stirring beyond them in the capital. Alarms sounded for the first time in generations. The people looked up at the night sky as ancient satellites turned to face the void. High above, far beyond their orbit, something massive moved. An old Terran beacon, asleep for centuries, came alive. Its surface glowed with crimson light as it sent a signal into the endless dark. The same words repeated in every tongue of the galaxy. Arixa endures. Humanity watches. On the far edge of known space, in a forgotten sector beyond any chart, a fleet stirred. 1,000 dark ships sleeping in the dust of dead stars. Reawakened, their engines glowed faintly. Their systems came alive, and in the center of them all, an old voice spoke, calm and patient. "This is Commander Hale. Signal received. Prepare the fleet." The ships turned slowly toward the light of distant stars. For them, centuries were nothing. Time only a pause between calls for help. They had saved hundreds of worlds, but none remembered them truly. To most of the galaxy, the Deathworlders were myths, whispers of monsters in human skin, saviors wrapped in fire. But to the few who still believed, they were something more. A promise that the dark was never empty. Back on Arixa, Errol ran through the streets shouting the message he had found. "Humans live," he cried. "They still watch us." Crowds gathered. Children lifted their hands to the stars. The priests fell to their knees, murmuring prayers to names long forbidden. And for the first time in centuries, the people looked to the heavens not with fear but with hope. As the stars flickered above, the last of the Terran signal faded into the void, but its echo remained. Carried through the cosmos on invisible threads, it passed through dust clouds across forgotten worlds, through ruins where other species slept. Each time it whispered the same message. A message older than empires, older than fear. When the helpless call for aid, humanity will answer, even if the stars themselves burn out. And somewhere, in the endless black between galaxies, a single ship blinked awake, its hull marked with the ancient sigil of Earth. Its engines burned blue against the void, and a calm voice whispered through the dark. "Signal confirmed. Destination Arixa. Time to remind the galaxy why they once feared the Deathworlders." The stars flared, the void trembled, and the legend of humanity rose once more. For mercy, for vengeance, for the promise that the darkness would never win again. And across 1,000 worlds the name human was spoken like a prayer, softly, reverently, and with awe. Because even after all this time, the galaxy remembered one truth. You can run from monsters, but you can never forget your saviors.